What is going on, guys? In this video I'm doing a review of the Motorola Google Nexus 6 smartphone, and this is a massive device measuring in at 159.3 by 83 by 10.1 millimeters and weighing in 184 grams. It's actually larger than the Note 4. In fact, the Note 4 is actually placed underneath the Nexus 6 right now, as you can see, which is actually a little too large. This is not being biased. I actually use the Note 4 as my daily device, so I'm used to phablet sized smartphones, but the Nexus 6 is a bit too big. Now, in terms of appearance, this is a pretty attractive device. It's as you would expect from a Nexus. It's really sleek and really simple looking. You got Nexus etched in at the back, and of course you have this curve at the back, which actually feels pretty natural in the hand. It arches with your hand when holding it, and there's a dimple at the back, which does nothing really. It just feels nice to hold. So if the device wasn't too large as it is, it'd actually be very comfortable to hold. And over at the bottom we have the micro USB 2.0 port, which is used for charging or connecting to your computer. On the left side we have nothing, and moving over to the top we have a SIM card tray and a 3.5mm jack for headphones or auxiliary. And over on the right we have the power button at the top and the volume rocker just below it. And aside from the audio, what you guys are seeing is being recorded with the Nexus 6 rear 13 megapixel camera. This is actually 4K footage compressed down to 1080p to match the rest of the video resolution. And I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed with 4K footage. In terms of sharpness and colors, it's not bad, it's okay. But when panning left and right slowly, there's a bit of stutter happening. And I find it weird that because when I pan left and right very quick, there's no stutter at all. There's no stutter problem when recording in 1080p, but it's disappointing that Nexus device finally had a camera. Like, we were so close to getting one that's really good, but it just had this weird stuttering issue in 4K recording when panning left and right very slowly. In terms of general picture quality, it's pretty average what you expect for today's day and age for a camera and a smartphone. It handles pretty reasonable. So this is recording with the front-facing camera, which is anything to really boast about. It's a 2 megapixel front-facing shooter, and of course it's decent enough for web chatting or video chatting, whatever you want to call it. And there's nothing more to really show you that it's an okay front-facing camera, pretty average for today's standards. So if you can get past the 4K stuttering, which isn't horrible, it won't ruin your footage, but might be annoying for some people. The worst thing about the camera is, ironically, the camera app. It's absolutely horrible. This is one of the worst I've ever used on an Android device. As soon as you select a camera mode, the selections of camera modes available will be hidden from the screen. So this will be annoying for people that aren't used to Android or people that aren't tech savvy. You might not know what to do and how to switch camera modes. This is one of the most poorest UIs I've ever seen for a camera app. Not only that, the selection of options and filters and quality settings, there's next to nothing here. You're better off downloading a third-party camera app. Fortunately, on a device this large, there are dual front-facing speakers. There's a speaker above and below the screen. Okay, so at this point we're doing my usual speaker volume test. I have the speakers on max volume and my camera is sitting about 20 feet away from the phone. Now keep in mind that the room is quiet, I know that, but with my own ears I can tell better than how it will sound compared to the camera mic, as you guys are going to be hearing it. But it's just to give you guys an idea of how the speakers perform. So I'm playing a YouTube video from my channel on max volume, so let's give it a listen. You know, wear and tear would eventually loosen it up, and it did, but I still find it to be rather stiff. It can be a little annoying to put on and take off. So overall, I have to say it doesn't perform as great as, say, the HTC One M8 and their boom sound technology, but considering it has dual front-facing speakers, this is still a solid sounding device. The speakers are great. So let's talk about that honking 5.96-inch AMOLED display with a resolution of 1440 by 2560, which basically means it's a 2K display or Quad HD, whatever you want to call it. So having AMOLED means a few things. It's pretty good on battery, the brightness level it can output is fairly high, and not only that, colors look great. The general sharpness looks fantastic. This is a great screen. Not only that, viewing angles are pretty respectable. I don't know why that's important to people on a smartphone, but if you want to know, viewing angles are pretty nice. So let's clear up one thing really quick. There's no notification light on this device. That's extremely disappointing considering it's an Android device. Not only that, it's a Nexus device and it's massive. I would expect that from, say, an iPhone, but for Nexus not to have a notification light is really disappointing. But moving past that, in terms of RAM, we have 3 gigs packed inside. And of course, for the processor, we have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 805 quad-core processor clocked at 2.7 GHz. It's a Cray 450 processor. And the GPU is an Adreno 420. But going back to RAM and processor, the multitasking on this thing is great. The amount of apps you can have open at one time is insane. It's probably one of the most I've ever seen on a smartphone. And it's able to switch between tasks in general opening apps and closing them really quick. And playing the top graphic Android games is no exception here. I mean, it's what you expect from a device with this much horsepower in it. It's pretty much able to handle any high graphic Android game I can throw at it, and it has next to no stutter at all. The battery is a 3220 mAh battery. It performs pretty well as you expect. From 100% down to 8%, I was able to get some pretty solid performance with 31 minutes of talk time. And of course there's a Hangouts talk time that is not shown here for some reason, which is also draining the battery. But I also had the screen on for about 2 hours and 7 minutes. And during that 2 hours 7 minutes I was surfing the net, watching some YouTube videos and whatnot. Not only that, there is also a battery saving mode built into stock Lollipop, so this will reduce the performance of the phone but greatly improve the performance of the battery. The battery also has Motorola's quick recharge, so basically if you're using the Motorola charger that came with this phone, I'm able to recharge about 40% of the battery in 35 minutes, and that's really fast considering how large the battery is. Not only that, it does support wireless Qi charging. Now in terms of connectivity, we have the usual like GPS, Wi-Fi, which supports 802.11 A, B, G, N, and AC, LTE, Bluetooth 4.0, NFC, DLNA, and of course connectivity to your computer via the micro USB port. Now I want to mention something really important. This does have cast screen, which basically allows you to mirror your device's screen to a device that supports cast screen like a Nexus player or the Google Chromecast. Unfortunately, that technology is exclusive to Android media players and a lot of people might not like them. At one point, Google was really pushing Mirrorcast, which supported a lot more devices like smart TVs and Blu-ray players, and is a much more universal approach to screen mirroring, but it's not on the Nexus 6. Google chose to remove it and they want you to buy their exclusive media players. Not only that, Google was really pushing IR blaster technology at one point in Android, but this also doesn't have an IR blaster, so you can't use a Nexus 6 as a remote control for your home theater devices. For storage, you can get an option of 32 or 64 gigs of internal storage. However, there's no microSD card slot, so you don't have any expandable storage options available. So the operating system itself, of course, is Android Lollipop straight out of the box. You know, get a lot of updates available, but most of them are just software updates to fix bugs and whatnot. The system interface itself is very minimalistic, it's very clean, it's very, well, bare bones Android. This is like Android at its most minimalistic. And for some people it might be a little bit boring, but for a lot of other people they might prefer this because they just want a clean Android experience. But there are some problems with this experience, of course, which wasn't a big deal before, but it's starting to catch up with it now. The first, of course, on this device with a massive screen like this is that the back button is on the left side. This is going to be biased, but it's true. Most people in the world are right-handed, so you would expect the back button to be on the right side. Unfortunately, it's not, and you can't switch them around despite it being a software button. You would have to modify the system, which you could permanently damage. Not only that, the multitasking button is a simple square. A lot of people wouldn't have no idea what that does, and if they tap it, they wouldn't know what to do. There is no quick toggle for volume change of notification alerts. So basically you can't just switch to vibrate mode or ringer mode in one button press, you have to actually change the volume. There's also no silent mode, you can't turn off ringtones and vibrate. It's just completely gone, I don't know why. And of course, turning mobile data on and off on a Nexus device has never been easy. On other manufactured devices, one swipe, one press. Here you have to swipe twice and double press to change the mobile data on and off. It's pretty annoying. The only real exclusive feature is of course ambient display, which basically if the device is on a flat surface and you receive a notification or if you pick up the device, the screen will turn on. But this is really annoying because sometimes I'll pick up the device and take it straight into my pocket, but I'll unlock the screen by accident. Fortunately, this feature can be turned off though. And yes, of course, this is a phone, so let's not forget that call quality is pretty important. And on the Nexus 6, it's okay. It's not great, it's not bad, it's just okay. So a lot of people think I'm too harsh on the score of the Nexus 6, mainly because it's a phablet sized device. And that's not true because I actually use the Note 4 as my daily device. And the Nexus 6 is a few millimeters bigger than the Note 4, but this is actually past the boundary of what's considered a ridiculous size for a phone. It's too large. New thing, of course, since the Nexus 5 is has 4K recording, but that doesn't really work properly. There's a bit of stutter. Some people might not care, they might be like, it's okay, it's not a lot of stuttering, whereas some people might be like, that's a total deal breaker for me. 1080p recording is fine, 4K is there, but 4K doesn't work as smooth as it should have. And not only that, the interface is extremely confusing to use for some people. The home button is a circle, the multitasking button is a square. If you're not tech savvy or if you're new to Android, this is one of the most confusing devices you'll ever use and it requires a lot of learning. At least with HTC and Samsung devices, for example, they do have some windows and it's some pop-ups that show you, okay, this is what this does and this is what this does, so you know how to use your device. And this goes especially for the camera app. Is one of the most confusing and one of the most terrible interface designs for a camera app. Download a third-party camera app if you're going to be buying this device. And this next point will be really biased, but it could have been changed on a software level if they really wanted to. And that, of course, is that most people are right-handed and the back button is on the left side. I'm pretty sure Google could have made an option where you can switch and reverse it. This can only be accomplished if you modify the system, which you could permanently damage the device by accident if you do something wrong. So I have a bit of mixed feelings about the Nexus 6. It had a lot of good things going for it, the screen, front-facing speakers, decent battery, and whatnot, but most of the problems are on the software level, and they removed silent mode, so I can't take this device to work and leave it on my desk because my phone would always be vibrating or always have some sort of notification ringtone. And I know there is a priority notification setting, but that requires a lot of tweaking. There just should have been a straight silent mode available. Unfortunately, there isn't. So that's my review of the Nexus 6. If you guys found this video useful, be sure to check out my Facebook, Google+, Twitter links in the video description. Hit the like button, it does help. Subscribe, and thanks for watching.